Mina Kimes has told us she wants to sing her takes today. I cannot wait until we get to hear some of what she's got to say. Mina, I just had a conversation about Zach Wilson, and it got me to thinking about the way the Packers handled Jordan Love and the way the Jets are handling Zach Wilson. We used to do it the way the Packers have always done it. Aaron, you sit behind Brett Favre. Jordan Love, you sit behind Aaron Rodgers. That was all the quarterbacks. C.J. Stroud didn't change how quickly people became good at quarterback. And then the last few years, we wreck these quarterbacks faster and earlier because of the amount of pressure and because the salaries have gone down and they're more disposable than they've been. I'm rambling. It's a habit. Jordan Love and the way they've handled him, I don't know how good he is, but they've given him a better chance to succeed than the Jets have Zach Wilson. Yes or no?
I'm going to push back. Well, yes, but I think almost every quarterback in the NFL is in a better situation than Zach Wilson, Bryce Young notwithstanding. But I do want to push back on your take a little bit about how we used to sit quarterbacks and then, nurture them in these like gentle, loving environments. That feels a little bit like survivorship bias. Like we're thinking about Rodgers, but for every Rodgers, there were both Mannings who you remember had to take their lumps early in their career. And then they got better. Like, yes, the Jordan Love situation is ideal in some ways. Patrick Mahomes' situation is ideal. Both of those quarterbacks were behind other quarterbacks who were playing very good football. Alex Smith was excellent at the end of his career in Kansas City. But there's plenty of examples throughout history of quarterbacks who were thrown into the fire and succeeded. And I think you've seen those. It's not just CJ Stroud. There's been some examples like that in recent years, too.
How would you articulate to people how difficult a position that is to play? In ways, how do you reach across the bridge to explain to the sports fan you don't understand how much information is being processed there?
I think there's a very simple way to illustrate it, which is you make people watch football from the end zone point of view. I remember when I can't remember, it was a few years ago when they did Skycam and they broadcasted a few games entirely from that. I remember one was Marcus Mariota on the Titans, and just watching him over the course of the game from that vantage point. First of all, it would make offensive linemen famous because you see who is good and they should be advocating for that. But you also see just how unbelievably difficult quarterback play is. You have usually less than 3 seconds. You have the biggest, fastest people in the world coming straight at you. You have guys behind them who are changing the picture for you, and you have to execute. And I think when you see it from that point of view, you understand how utterly impossible it is. So many things have to go right for a quarterback to complete a pass, and you can see all of the forces contriving to make sure they don't.
You were mentioning how Green Bay is a better situation for a young quarterback than New York, and what makes you so certain of that? Because New York is a pretty good situation too. They've got a great young wide receiver. They've got a good defense. You don't have to put up a lot of points. Is it as simple as the offensive line and the offensive coordinator we don't trust?
We said they were a quarterback away. It didn't have to be Aaron Rodgers. We watched that team last year and said it was a quarterback away.
There are several quarterbacks playing right now that are also young that can go in there, and if you just take what they've done on other teams, and I know that this is not a fair comparison, and you plug that into New York, it all of a sudden becomes a good situation, no?
I think you hit on why it's uniquely challenging for a young quarterback, and I want to be clear, this is not Zach Wilson apologism. I don't think he should be a starting NFL quarterback, unlike some of my colleagues. You mentioned the difference between those teams is largely the offensive line, which is very different. I mean, in Green Bay, you have probably one of the 5 best offensive lines in football. They've had some injuries there. They've been healthy lately. I think it's no coincidence. That's a big part of why Jordan Love's been comfortable. And then the New York Jets have one of the worst offensive lines in football. I think when you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, that mitigates that to some degree because he gets the ball out so quickly. You could say, well, it also endangers him. But when you're just talking about, efficiency in quarterback play, if you have a veteran, it tends to make bad offensive lines look better. But when you have a young quarterback, it's so important. And I do think if you switched places, I don't think Jordan Love would be having the season he's having. The other thing you mentioned, by the way, play caller, another thing where I think it's so important for a young quarterback, whereas Aaron Rodgers doesn't. It's okay that Nathaniel Hackett would have been his offensive play caller, I think, in a way that it's clearly not okay for insert random Jets quarterback.
Mina, I'm curious. When you were doing long-form magazine features, Aaron Rodgers wanted to be seen by America differently. He came and spent time with you at your apartment, and you wrote a very good profile on the psychology of Aaron Rodgers. Now, after you've seen the last few years of everything that's happened there, I'm genuinely curious what you make and how you experience the last few years of Aaron Rodgers, from the person who walked into your living room wanting to have a different relationship with America to the person who over the last few years has done a lot of stuff that we couldn't have seen coming.
I swear I'll answer your question, but this is when you put Dan up. That was my first time seeing him on the big screen. Did you get lost on the way to Home Depot today, Dan? Like, what's going on with the plaids?
Get his ass, Mina. But do
you
it
look
in
like
song.
You're about to ask me to like check the oil on my car.
Get him.
Or like come over and like look around and point things in my house that need to be fixed.
Can you say hi? I'm Bob Vila. Could do it.
How long have you owned that shirt? Has he ever worn that on set before? I've never seen you wear that shirt.
He's bundled up today. It's cold out.
In Miami?
It was 63 degrees this morning. I have never worn this shirt. This was just bought for me recently by my wife, and I haven't any reason to wear it.
This is like when Kirk Cousins' wife dresses him up, and he's like, I don't know. My wife picks these out for me. And it's like a little short sleeve shirt, and everyone's like, you look so cute.
Everyone today has told me that I look better than I normally do. I've taken it today as lashes.
You look like some thought was put into it.
You look your age.
Age appropriate. Age appropriate. Age appropriate. Age appropriate.
The there's been a lot of serious takes where Dan's wearing a costume, which is of course the dynamic we all enjoy. But Dan giving asking me serious football questions dressed like someone your age who might actually be doing sports radio is equally disconcerting, I'd argue.
I really hate when Dan makes serious points while wearing a ridiculous costume. It's absurd of him.
Jake Browning looked really good on Monday Night Football.
Man.
That's the best a quarterback has looked for Cincinnati this season, and I know Joe Burrow's health has a lot to do with it. I started getting swept up in all the things that maybe flashed occasionally in college for him. He looks good. Can he be good?
He looked good. Yeah. I'm a Huskies fan. I did not think that he would look that good. Obviously someone who very much enjoyed his college career. Didn't think he was an NFL prospect. Totally blew the doors off of my expectations. But I will also say I was really impressed by the coaching in that game. And I have to think that had to feel good for Zach Taylor and Brian Callahan, because nobody ever gives them credit, because we just watched that offense, and it is an offense that is not heavily schemed up for Joe Burrow because of what he is good at, what he likes, which is to sit back in the gun, point, be the conductor. Whereas with Browning, they were booting him. It was very RPO head. Like that was a very schemed up and well executed offense. It was kind of like a, hey, like we're good at coaching too, guys. We just, you just don't. We have a really great elite quarterback, so you don't see it, and we never get credit for it.
Oh, but they were 4-28-1 without Burrow. Like that before that game, why would they get credit for it? They lost 28 of the 33 games they played.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I just think there's like a thing for coaches. I wonder if Belichick felt this way, like during like the Castle year or whatever, when you have a really, really good quarterback and nobody really talks about you ever. And you're right. They weren't good before Joe Burrow, but I think like they also deserve credit. Like, they changed the offense with him. They showed that they could change it on the fly. These are the moments in which we start thinking about coaches and what they actually contribute. Of course, it helps when you have Jamar Chase, who like literally caught everything in that game and was unbelievable.
I've got a question for each of you. Mina, how much better are the Niners than the Eagles? Because that played itself out pretty horrifically for Philadelphia. And for Dan, which is the best IPA to pair with a brisket?
Dan first?
I want to do the IPA question. Yeah, sorry.
No, please, you go first.
No, you. Well, I'll address the Niners thing. I think they are better. I think the biggest problem for the Eagles is that their defense, which has had holes all year, has holes that make them uniquely vulnerable to losing to the San Francisco 49ers. Linebacker, yeah, obviously they were injured. They went out and signed Shaq Leonard, but that already was not a strength on this team. It is actually something that I think they devalue. Like the Eagles are a team where they're not going to spend a lot of money and very, very high draft picks on linebacker and running back because they're run the way nerds love football teams to be run. The problem is against the San Francisco 49ers in particular, I think you need a very good run game and elite linebackers. The Baltimore Ravens have those in that game. I'm very excited about. The Philadelphia Eagles, I think, just by design, have a hard time with them. And I think that'll still be the case if they meet again.
Hazy.
Good answer.
That's what you want to go with. You didn't answer my Aaron Rodgers question.
Yes. I think what's been revealed to me is a couple things. One, people do change, especially I think we've seen people who are on the internet, a lot. I mean, it can become very, I don't want to speculate about Rodgers, but I think when he talks and when you hear him talk and the things he's talked about, he's obviously someone who is very online in a way that I think is very unique to our time right now in the world. But I also think another thing, and this is kind of your question was like, well, are you surprised by the person you met? Well, it's someone I spent less than 24 hours with. And I think that's something as a writer, you sort of have to come to terms with, which is you try to do these magazine stories, you get to know someone, but ultimately you don't really know them. And that's something that's been proven time and time again when I look back at guys, not just Rodgers, that I profiled over the years.
But you're reporting around them too. You're not just spending time with them and getting to know them. We're going to come back with Mina Kimes and get her to speak very much faster, the fastest minute and 45 seconds in sports.
In song. We're back with Mina Kimes, host of the Mina Kimes Show, featuring Lenny. Lenny is her dog. Mina, I hope to see you on Monday at our all-ages event in Dolphin Mall, Vivo Miami, the Miller Lite stage. It's brought to you by Miller Lite and Dollar Shave Club. All ages. We're going to be watching Titans and Dolphins. Ooh, that sounds fun. It's a big holiday party with the LeBatard Show. Come on out. Dan, take it away.
Mina, you look radiant. I don't know, radiant is the word. Are you feeling radiant? Because I don't imagine that this stage of the baby having is a radiant time.
Well, I think the reason I might look radiant is literally there is a light coming right in through my window for the podcast audience, just trying to paint a picture. I'm still trying to adjust my settings in the mornings. I do these shows with you guys and I'm on First Take. And it's very bright here because it is 9:15 a.m. So there is literally a beam of light coming straight at me. It is not something I would attribute to post-baby glow or anything like that. It's been very fun being back at work and having an outlet to give my opinions and whatnot. It is a little bit weird because you spend 2 months of your life spending 24 hours a day, a little bit less than 24 hours a day with a human. And when you're away from them a little bit, it's a little bit strange, especially because that it is an unusually physical. Oh my God, you're gonna start the clock while I'm talking about the physical maternal bond. Okay, fine, let's do this.
I disagree with his executive ruling there. I was enjoying that conversation, but Mike Ryan wants his football information. So tell me what's going on with the Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs. We talk a lot, obviously, about the offense and the wide receivers dropping passes. This is a big narrative. They're dependent entirely on Travis Kelce, maybe Rashee Rice. That is a serious problem. But another thing that I think is flying a little bit under the radar is over the last few weeks, the defense, which started the season so elite. Performance has declined a little bit. They got shredded by play action by the Green Bay Packers. The defensive line is not getting quite the same push they were earlier in the year. So they seem to be suffering.
Splash.
Do you find it weird that Lamar Jackson and Tua are still healthy, but they're the only quarterbacks who are still healthy?
That's a great point, and I really hope it's something that we bring up in the future when we talk about narratives and quarterbacks and being injury prone and dual threats and all of that, because there was so much hemming and hawing. Should we pay Lamar Jackson? He's injury prone. Tua Tagovailoa, can he make it through a season? And we are right now here in the season. I think it really sheds light on the fact that quarterback injuries tend to be really random, and we get really mad about the fact that there are a lot of backups right now starting in the AFC, and we say we got to change the rules.
You don't have to respect the splash. You can talk through it a little bit.
Always.
A little bit. No, it's like the bell on PTI. She doesn't have to respect the splash if she does not want to.
Splash.
That's not something that's a thing. If I can't hit the quarterback in the head and if I can't hit him in the legs and if I can't hit him at all, then why is it they're all getting hurt?
Well, it's kind of what I was just saying in the last point, which is that it tends to be really random. By the way, it feels like, like all these quarterbacks are hurt and it's worse than it's ever been. But when you actually look at the statistics, the percentage of starts you're getting from quarterbacks who started week 1 is actually highest it's been in years. It's just very concentrated in one conference. Obviously, that number will go up as the season goes on, but it's not like an unusually injury-prone year.
Are the Steelers... sorry about that. That's my fault.
I beat the splash that time.
Are the Steelers any good?
Should I stay in my deck, Dan?
Again with the Bob Villa
Splash.
stuff. Again with the Bob Villa stuff. I don't understand why it is that
Villa.
Ay, coño. Villa. Answer my question.
Oh, about the Steelers? They're fine. They're not they're okay. They're, I would say, an average football team. Obviously the underlying numbers reflect that. There's a point differential.
9-8, baby.
Just
Splash.
Can you?
Oh God, they're playing tonight. Oh.
Yeah, give us a preview.
What was that?
Do you think Ezekiel Elliott will have fewer than 60 rushing yards?
I was looking at I know there kind of meme went around because when they advertise these games, they put up the 2 quarterbacks usually, and I think they had Belichick out for the Patriots, which who knows if he'll even be, around with the Patriots next year. But I saw they made a new one with Bailey Zappi and Mitch Trubisky, and the looks on both their faces in the Photoshop in the picture they're both looking at the camera
Splash.
like, are you really gonna watch this? You really gonna watch us?
What are we to do with how dreadful Belichick's team looks?
So this is going to, I feel like this is simmering right now, but it's going to obviously heat up at the end of the season when the Patriots have to make a decision and they're headed into the draft with potentially the number 2 pick. Is this the guy you want shepherding the future of the franchise? I think because of not just his record, but what he's done recently on defense, it makes sense to keep him, but only if you can get someone to intervene on the personnel side, because he's been a horrible GM over the last few years.
Who's better, the Patriots or the Panthers?
The Patriots. The Panthers are really, really bad.
Splash.
It's really hard to watch.
Bryce Young the other day at halftime, 47-yard line, his own 47-yard line, 4th and 2, 2 seconds left. They didn't trust him to throw a Hail Mary, just threw it out of bounds. He can reach the end zone from there, correct?
Bryce Young does not have a super strong arm. I don't think that's even one, they're top 10 on the problems with the Carolina Panthers. Maybe it's top 10, but not top 5 on the problems with the Carolina Panthers. But yeah, it's not great. And when you watch him, it is one of those things where it was kind of, we were talking about earlier with quarterback situation. It's just so hard to parse out responsibility because of the circumstances.
Quit beating around the bush. Did the committee get it right?
No, because Washington probably should have been 1.
That's right.
But I don't care.
Leave Michigan out.
You agree
Leave
with Dan.
Michigan out.
Dan, has that been your take?
I loved Washington all year. They're just fun. I love because their quarterback throws it down the field.
You know those videos, the video of Michigan reacting to Alabama getting in over FSU, where they're like, it's really quite funny. That was the opposite for me at home watching. I was prepared to fire up my Washington was robbed takes when I thought it was FSU, but then when they said Alabama, I was like,
because you
feels right.
Because you don't. Oh, so you don't want. You think you two fear Alabama to expose a team that you think is good, but was a 10-point underdog against the Ducks.
I would rather play Texas than Alabama as a Washington Huskies fan. Is that and that's not Texas slander. It has something for me. It's a little bit about the build of the teams. I think that they can just go toe to toe with them.
But Texas beat Alabama. How can you say that one's better than the other? I don't know what
is that a Texas? I feel like that was more like
a college football fan watching ESPN who feels slighted.
Okay. That was a Feinbaum caller.
It didn't sound like it had a lot of South. Did it have a lot of South in it?
I didn't want to offend.
It did. Wearing that shirt.
When you say that San Francisco has a particular set of skills to dismantle the Eagles, who has the particular set of skills that would cause the problems for San Francisco?
Dan kind of looks like the guy in the Hallmark movie where his significant other leaves to go to the big city and comes back, and maybe he runs like a Christmas tree farm now, and they meet again and they fall in love, and she has to make a decision. Does she want to go back to her big city life?
So Sweet Home Alabama.
His dad was Santa Claus the entire time.
Splash.
That's a great answer.
I'll ask it again. Who gives the 49ers trouble?
I said this, but I'll get into why. But the Baltimore Ravens, I think, because when you look at the Niners, it's so hard to find problems with that team. They're so dominant. Couple of things, though, they actually do not have a very good run defense this year, particularly runs between the tackles, which is something Baltimore is very good at. Best rushing attack in football. And then defensively, I think Baltimore has the best defense in the NFL. And they also have an elite linebacker duo, which you need linebackers who can cover and tackle to play the San Francisco 49ers because of how multiple they are on offense.
You mentioned Mike McDonald as someone that's disguising blitz schemes and coverages, and he's the Ravens defensive coordinator, and he's been someone that's really impressed you. What's another coach that we should keep an eye out as these jobs start opening up?
Ooh, I'll do a weird one, I actually think Arizona's offensive coordinator, who was with Cleveland, Drew Petzing, has done a very good job this year. You really saw that with Josh Dobbs. And I actually think when you watch Kyler, the offense, which is very different from what Cliff Kingsbury ran, which is more of the air raid, this is more of we're going to put tight ends on the field. We're going to use more run actions. I think he's doing a lot with difficult circumstances.
Mina, what do you think about the NFC South having a playoff committee to decide who gets in?
I don't know who would be the FS, because it's really 3 teams you're deciding between, and actually I don't mind that idea, because I don't want to see any of them particularly in the playoffs, so I think it would be better at the end of the season to try to choose who would be the most entertaining. I really stopped respecting the construct of this, by the way.
You did. I'm going to stop playing
answering. I started answering questions with a normal pace and intonation.
You decided we're putting Baker in.
It was moving very fast, and then it slowed down because you can be jostled into always football comatose talk. There's no – I got to imagine – I don't know if your husband cares about any of this stuff, but the amount of football you want to care about, can talk about with anybody, you can absolutely get lost in football land for hours at a time.
Do you know how I felt there? I totally agree with you about sort of why I stopped doing the bit. There's this thing that babies do called dream feeding. I didn't know about this. I'm sure everyone in here with babies is aware of it, where while they're still asleep, they will eat out of a bottle, but they'll stay asleep. It's amazing. It's a wonderful thing. So you put the bottle in their mouth and they just kind of go like this. There's something instinctively that just clicks and they just start sucking on the bottle. Anyways, that's how I feel sometimes when I get asked football questions. It's I'm there's a part of my brain that just clicks on and starts answering it, even if it's
you're gonna really regret giving the internet that.
Which part?
the face.
You should stop.
You should really stop.
Does Mina
my eyes are closed, so I can't see how bad it is.
Does Mina actually dream about football?
I always have dreams about football. And I can't even tell you the amount of dreams I've had over the years about the Seahawks losing. I've never had a dream where they've won.
It's a nightmare?
Yeah, I guess they're nightmares, yeah. I only have nightmares. Is that weird?
You only have nightmares and they're all about the Seahawks? You only
No, they're not all about the Seahawks. I have the one where I enrolled in a class and I didn't know I enrolled, and I find out at the end of the semester probably once every 2 weeks still.
I have that one all the time.
Those are responsible students right there, man.
I've never had that.
Not surprising.
I have the sports media equivalent of that sometimes too now, where I show up and the conversation it's about it something I haven't prepared for. I also have that one every 2 weeks.
See you later, Mina. The Mina Kimes Show with Lenny. She'll be here every week. Thank you.
Featuring
Dream Feeds. Does Dan Dream Feed?
Battle Court playoff position has been locked in. Chris Cody. We have an opportunity on Monday before us to play our way into our third ever Battle Court final. There have only been 4 of them. You know what that means? sets the Cyclones on the precipice of being called the Blue Blood.
Doubleheader on Monday.
Yes, huge. We go up against the Dahada Devils. We are the 2 seed. They are the 3 seed. We have the 2 seed advantage. We get to pick one doubles pairing that will not see the front on Monday. Now, this isn't exactly open to the public. We are going because we are owners of the team and friends of the owners can come. But depending on what happens on Monday, we'll either be in a great or sour mood at our Titans-Dolphins watch party at the Miller Lite stage in Dolphin Mall. This is, I'm not going to mince words, hugely important to Chris and I. We have totally thrown ourselves into it. I think with every passing season, we get more and more caught up in it.
Well, last season, you guys derailed last season. You didn't want to talk about it. You were hurt. You fouled it up after great success. You won the championship your first season, and then the second season, we didn't talk about it because you guys were buried in shame.
Second season, we lost in heartbreak in the final. Third season, we don't talk about that. Fourth season, going great.
The dynasty fell apart, and we talked about it very little, but you're telling me you've got the best chance since the first year this Monday.
The boys are ready. I think our roster is, we've brought back some pieces from when we were at our best. We've paired him with a young Bueno who's just, I think, playing the best highlight of his life. And I just think this is, I feel the team vibes. In between games, you see all 6 guys together. You don't see this chemistry. I think that the chemistry is far and above the best in the league. And I think this team's ready. It's our time, Dan.
We love this team. We love this sport. What started as a content play and maybe a little bit of a joke has become something that we've grown really fond of. We love these boys.
You own the team. You and Chris run the team.
Clones. Everyone.
Let's go, Clones. Come
Jeremy.
on, every single person.
Clones.
Let's go, Clones.
And
Let's go, Clones.
Provided that we
Let's
win
go,
on Monday.
Clones.
And you can follow the action if you're not coming into town for our watch party on Monday. You can follow the action on They always tell me to say ESPN3, but it's on ESPN Plus. They have the ESPN3 built into it. But either way, you know how to find us. Please support us, because if we win this game on Monday, and we fared pretty well against the Dahada Devils owned by Jorge Masvidal this season, if we make it to the finals on Friday, we go up against the Robote Renegades owned by Udonis Haslem. They have arguably the best highlight player on the planet in Gocherry. We're going to need every bit of your support next Friday, provided we make it to the final.
Lucy, do you know anything about highlight?
Nope.
Do you care to know anything about highlight? Jessica, I think,
Not
went out
particularly.
one time. And
Please, Dan.
I love that you guys are passionate about it, and I hope that you have so much fun, but I'm busy on Monday.
I made Jess $80 last time she went.
I've been a handful of times.
It's fun,
At least
isn't it?
5. It is fun. It's a good way
voice
to
got a
start
little higher
your
there.
Friday. Okay.
We
four
sing,
times
we
maybe.
chant, we drink beers, we have a good time. And
Lucy, I'll
Lucy
take
has
you
never
sometime.
you've never been able to go because you've always been off-roading. Is that how it's pronounced? Off-roading?
I don't really know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Another show with a name that we don't know about. That's all Lucy makes around
we
here.
We have a name for our segment, which we will be unveiling next week when we record.
So you've...
It wasn't ready for this week's recording.
Oh, okay. So Foot Girls is still this...
Interim title this week.
I'm a little heartbroken. People really liked that.
You did a really good job. I just
know.
kind of hated it a little bit.
Yeah, they liked it too much. That was the problem. I got a lot of DMs this week saying, foot girls, that's funny. Haha, show me your feet.
You weren't
Lots of
supposed to reveal
those.
that.
The internet's a creepy place. What are you doing, Lucy?
From your dad.
With Army Navy, Lucy, what are we doing? Like, what do you expect? Do you go into these with or without expectations? Because last week, you would think, I thought we were sending you to the most magical of tailgates, where you would just have crazed debauchery fighting over the South for the last 5 years, and instead it was parking lots filled with corporate nonsense.
Yeah, I always go in with expectations, and I was very disappointed last week, but I'm really excited for this one. I was a little nervous because I was like, maybe people won't want to talk to us on camera, but a few people tweeted at me, and they were like, you are going to have a great time. We all get super drunk. Like, it's going to be a really awesome experience, so I'm very excited for this.
I am looking forward to the idea. So we're not going to get repressed servicemen who are afraid of being on camera and saying the wrong thing and disgracing the military.
Certainly hope not.
Navy does a great job tailgating. Notre Dame plays them every year. I was at their first game of the season in Ireland, humble brag, went to their pep rally. They have a great time. I think that is a stereotype that anyone who has been to a tailgate with Navy fans and members of, cadets would disagree with that, Dan. They're very, very polite. They always come to our tailgates. We give them some food, give them some alcohol, and they have a great time, and they absolutely love football.
I always imagine it's like the Fleet Week episode of Sex and the City.
Mike Ryan has been pushing down repressed for 3 weeks of quiet, as Wembanyama hasn't exactly taken basketball by storm. And recently, I did not watch what happened against Rudy Gobert, but Rudy Gobert defensive efficiencies and Minnesota's defensive efficiencies this year have been very good. And evidently, did Gobert undress Wembanyama?
Yeah. Rudy Gobert, offensive juggernaut, noted, right? He played him off the floor. It's been pretty quiet over the last 3 weeks, as you mentioned. No aggregate sites. No Victor Wembanyama being super tall. Thank God, too, because if this kid ever figures it out, and no one rates this kid as highly as I do. I am not a Victor Wembanyama hater. If anything, I'm a lover of the game. Thank God he has a know-nothing coach that does not know how to use him properly. Camp his ass out in the paint and just let him be tall for a while.
Well, let me ask you guys this question, because I find this part fascinating. The sport wanted to go global, and there are going to be international things that happen to the sport. And one of the things that has happened is, I am saying in front of you, and Taylor gave the stat earlier, of how Jokic just routinely, every couple of days, puts up a stat line no one's ever seen before. He is leading the league in points, in rebounds, and in assists. And nobody cares, maybe not even him. Nobody seems to care that there is a player playing basketball right now. I mean, we're coming out of the LeBron age. Who's going to take the league from him? Who is next? Because LeBron and Durant are old, they've got to give the league over. They've given it over to the champion, who now leads the sport in points and rebounds and assists. And we talk about Lillard, and we talk about Giannis, and we talk about the super teams over here. And Denver's your reigning champion, and they've got at the center of it somebody who just said Wembanyama is going to change the game. Well, right now it's presently being dominated and changed by one dude, who maybe Wembanyama can do those things and be taller than everyone else, but one dude is doing it right now, and he's the reigning champion. And when you leave...
Oh, I thought Jaime Jaquez.
Points, rebounds, and assists, Mike, and nobody cares? Nobody cares that... You can't tell me that anyone listening to this cares that the coverage is proportional to the greatness.
Yeah, he I think if he keeps this up, can be talked about as not just the greatest big man ever, but maybe the greatest player ever, which I thought it had been a good 12 years before we saw like a big man totally dominate a game that you couldn't scheme around, and we thought the game had just passed that position by. You needed an agile five. You needed a five that can come out and respond to someone stretching the floor on them. And this guy is just so skilled that he's made us change our perspectives. I didn't think what Jokic is doing to be possible.
Jaime Jaquez did just pass Victor Wembanyama as the best performer of the 2023 draft class, according to Hoops Hype Global Rating.
He has been spectacular, and last night the duo of Jaime Jaquez and Duncan Robinson were really great in the Heat's win over Toronto. And really for Wembanyama, it feels like it all sort of started to go downhill after Robinson hit him with the Smitty. Like that was the moment where everything sort of changed for Victor Wembanyama.
And here's to you, Duncan Robinson. We all love how much your game has grown. Whoa, you're hitting threes, Duncan Robinson. Cutting and dishing to our big O. That's Orlando in Toronto.
Where does Big Game Boomer have Wemby ranked?
Jaime Jaquez was Player of the Month. That happened.
Rookie of the month, yeah.
Yes. Excuse me. So Wembanyama got beat out last month after all of the hype by a local Mexican guy.
He got beat out by Chet Holmgren in his conference. Our local Mexican guy won the Eastern Conference, but I think it's fair to say that Jaquez has had a better month, and Wembanyama came in with a lot of fanfare, but the results aren't there. In fact, if you see the San Antonio stats across the board, they're worse than last year, and they were pretty bad last year, but they're worse defensively. Their offensive efficiency is bad. They're turning the ball over a lot. Victor Wembanyama seemingly has made them worse.
He's 19, though.
I project him like the guy's going to change the game of basketball, and we should raise the hoops and do whatever we can to stop this monster from doing whatever his monster paws can do. But come on, the kid sucks.
Okay, there are probably a few stops between those two.
He's not a good basketball player right now. He's just like he's taking bad shots for what it is that he does. He's not an efficient ball player because they have him out in the perimeter. Now, if they want to make the investment that we view you as a perimeter player, it's better that you're on the outside, and we'll work out these kinks here. This season doesn't really matter. Fine. But giving Victor Wembanyama the basketball right now is not an efficient play.
But you know who is an efficient and polished player? That's Jaime Jaquez Jr., and he's just coming off the bench for the Miami Heat. They won last night without 3 starters. So that embarrassment of riches comments that you guys were all making fun of, how about embarrassment of riches?
Oh my God! Go sit in the penalty box as the state. That's perfect. Just get out of here. Just I don't want to talk about this anymore. You're unbearable with this stuff. Why are you guys holding up bobbleheads?
There are Emmys.
They are not Emmys. What are those bobbleheads of? Is that
Prove that Jeremy's is an Emmy.
Is that an Iowa thing? I can't tell from here.
Iowa soccer. It was given to us as a gift. Very nice. And it's better than an Emmy, I believe.
My daughter's Miami.
This is Dr. James Andrews.
The bobblehead of Dr. James Andrews.
Kind of gotten surpassed by this El Attaché guy, by the way.
I thought that was Henry Kissinger.